I'm Brady Fulmer, otherwise known as Lazy Snake.
Prison Mike's on air.
Yeah, I'm Jason Call, aka the Bearded Wonder.
Awesome. We are here doing our second show. For those who are watching, thanks for watching our inauguration show. It was a little rough, wasn't exactly our best showing, but we were able to get it done and get it off of our chest. If I'm being honest, man, like it was time to start this podcast because we've been talking about it for a long time. So we're really happy we were able to do it. For those who are watching for the first time, we are the Sports Fans. We have our little nicknames, obviously, because we think we're pretty cool. And we're a sports talk show. We like to incorporate sports and comedy in our own opinions. And we hope that you guys will enjoy what we talk about for the next hour or so. Brady, how about you take it away?
Yeah, so we're going to jump straight into the NFL. We're obviously at a really exciting time. The Super Bowl's just around the corner. And guess who's in the Super Bowl again? None other than Tom Brady. This is now his 10th time making it to the Super Bowl, which is absolutely incredible. And the topic we're going to discuss first is this year in 2021, with Tom Brady being 43 years of age, is this his most impressive Super Bowl run up to date? Is it more impressive than all other 9? What do you guys think? I'll turn it over to whoever wants to jump in.
Jason, what do you have to say? I want to hear your opinion.
I am impressed by this run that they put together. I didn't think they were going to make it. The playoff run they had to go through was not an easy one. I'm just thinking back of the other Super Bowl runs that they've made, and I mean they had that one season where where they were almost perfect. They've had so many Super Bowl runs that have been impressive. It's definitely has impressed me, but I don't know if it's the most impressive.
So that's a no?
No.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to have to agree with Jason. This Super Bowl run is absolutely phenomenal, and it's obviously an incredible feat and a legacy that no one can really Tom Brady has done in his career. I mean, that guy's 43 years old. He's older than my biological father. I mean, we're talking a guy who's out there. He's gonna he might be playing with his grandkids. I mean, LeBron's talking about wanting to play with his son. I think Tom Brady might want to play with his son's son. So, at this point, I mean, he's just wowed all of us. But I actually think his most impressive Super Bowl run was I think it was 2008. Was it 2008 or no? It was 2007, I believe, when they had that undefeated season. Obviously, they lost to the Giants, but the fact that they went 16-0 in the regular season and then carried that on to the Super Bowl, obviously, kind of a heartbreaking loss and kind of something that was maybe a little damaging to the reputation of Tom Brady, because if he could have gotten that done, that would have been amazing. But I actually think that 2007 run where they went undefeated until the Super Bowl was probably his most impressive run to the Super Bowl. But if his best Super Bowl game, I mean, that's it.
Nice. All right. PM, what do you have to say?
Well, I guess I'm not like exactly sure all of the Super Bowls that Tom Brady's been to and all of the runs he's had, but from what I've been watching, I would say this is probably one of his most impressive runs. I don't know if it's the most impressive, but it is definitely I'd say top 3 for sure. Maybe even top 2, because if you look at it, he's on a different team. And one of my favorite things that happened this season is he had so many doubters. At the beginning of the season, I heard a lot of well, now that he's not with Bill Belichick in New England, he's not going to succeed. The only reason he had success was because he was with the Patriots. But he went to an entirely new organization. And I just think that shows how great of a QB he is, and that this is one of his most impressive runs that he's ever put together.
All right. Okay. I'm going to answer this just really quickly, and then we'll move on. I do not think that it's his most impressive run. He is 40 years old. He did have to change teams, learn a new offense. But if you look at all the weapons that he has around him, I feel like it definitely made it easier for him. He has Mike Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, and a number of other guys. Those are just the main four. But when he made to the Patriots, there were a few times where his best receiver was Julian Edelman, which Julian Edelman's a receiver, but I don't think he compares to any of those just named as far as an elite receiver in the NFL. So I think years that he made it with the Patriots, he had less talent around him and he had to do more for his team. I think that he's had the talent around him to get him there this whole year. So that's my opinion.
I agree. And I think if you look back on some of the things that Tom Brady has done, I mean, he had the year after Deflategate where he took him to the Super Bowl. I mean, he didn't win it the year after Deflategate, but the year after that, a lot of people still consider that one of his revenge tours, where he went into the Super Bowl against the Seattle Seahawks team that was a Legion of Boom, probably one of the best defenses we've ever seen. At that point, Russell Wilson had really started to separate himself from just a good quarterback to an elite quarterback. And
just give it to Marshawn.
Just give it to Marshawn.
Just run the ball.
That was an absolutely incredible Super Bowl run. And the thing about Tom Brady is we can talk about his legacy, and we could talk about, all the things he's done statistically. We could talk about all the things he's done in terms of winning games and Super Bowls. It's just going to come out to the fact that he's the best quarterback of all time. I mean, we could talk about a number of things that he's done that's absolutely incredible. But, yeah, a lot of Super Bowl runs. But, I think this one's going to rank right up there. I will say this. I think if he wins this Super Bowl, if they do beat the Chiefs, I think that I would actually count it as his most impressive Super Bowl run. If they can beat this Chiefs team, that is absolutely phenomenal. Probably the most talented offense we've ever seen, with the most talented quarterback we've ever seen. I think one can make the argument that yes, this is probably his most impressive accomplishment. I mean, he doesn't have anything else to prove, but if he does win this, then I'll be in absolute awe.
Agreed.
I just want to point out the fact that a Brady called Prison Mike PM. It sounded like BM. I thought you were consulting your system.
Prison Mike's just too long to say sometimes, so I got to shorten it. Save some pressure. Time is money. Time is money.
Yeah,
Time is money.
You're good.
Speak about money, man. Mike looks like $100 right now. He's got the tie. He's got the tie. I mean, I've got that Brady single, but Mike, I'll tell you what. I'm just gonna do a plug-in. If there are any single females that are looking for love, Mike is about as husband ready as they come. So
he's a classy dude.
I don't know if we need to be mentioning this right now, but I did dress up for tonight. Hopefully I look good.
Dressing up for the female fans.
Yeah. Hey, also, before we get going too far, anybody watching live, if you switch over to our YouTube live channel, you can actually leave comments during the show that we can see while we're broadcasting. So if you want to leave comments, switch over to YouTube and get on it. Leave us a comment or two. We're going to keep going with the NFL and talk about the quarterbacks that are looking for trades. There's a few of them out there, most notably Matthew Stafford and Deshaun Watson. And there's a couple teams where they could land. They could make a pretty immediate impact as well. Kellen, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I think that obviously, there's a lot of questions surrounding some of these quarterbacks' future. Matthew Stafford, but obviously Deshaun Watson's the big one. We know that he's been wanting out of Houston. A lot of it has to do with the fact that Houston was absolutely terrible this year. I think they won 4 games? Did they win 4 games or 5 games this year?
They were bad either way. I don't know.
Anyways, they were subpar. And this is a team that made the playoffs a year ago. And it seemed like Deshaun Watson was really happy there. And obviously, I think Houston's were happy to have Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, more than anything, said he wants out because of a culture change. But the fact of the matter is the Houston Texans say they're not willing to trade Deshaun Watson. And I don't know what it is about Houston. That's got to be the most problematic and dramatic city in the sports world. Because you think about it. This was literally just happening with James Harden. James Harden's kind of a crybaby poopy pants, but he got his way out. I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. I mean, we're talking about a team that just hired an African-American head coach, David Culley. And obviously we know that Deshaun Watson wasn't exactly impressed with how the Houston Texans handled the social justice issues that were happening. And that's why he wanted out. So they hire an African-American head coach in David Culley. Deshaun Watson still says, he wants out. But this is what David Culley said. He said he's concerned he's the quarterback of the Houston Texans, and that's all that I was concerned about. Later on, he said, that's all I know, and whatever's being said about what he wanted to do or didn't want to do, all I know is this. He is a Houston Texan, and I wanted to be a Houston Texan. The reason I'm in this position today is because I knew he was going to be a Houston Texan. The outside stuff is irrelevant to me. So it sounds like David Culley, the new head coach, sounds really confident that Deshaun Watson is going to be back next season as a starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. But I just want to say, I just think that we're going to see a similar situation to James Harden, where he's basically going to say, look, I'm not playing. If you want me to play, then you're going to just have to kick rocks. What are your guys' thoughts?
I'm gonna go if that's all right, but I think Deshaun Watson needs to be careful about how much he whines and complains to get out of there. Because if he's not careful, he's gonna end up at like the Jets or another organization like that. That's just about as bad as in his situation
that's where he wants
he's at.
to go. That's where he wants to go, though. He was actually talking. He wants to go to the New York Jets.
Which, for me, that's pretty surprising. Like, maybe he thinks he can get in there and kind of turn things around, but we've just seen it for years. The Jets have just been playing bad. They've had problems with their management, their coaching, their players. Like, I don't think that New York, the Jets, is a much better culture than what he already has in Houston.
Nice.
Brady, what are your thoughts?
I honestly, when I was thinking about this day, I honestly think he's going to end up in New York. I think he definitely wants out of Houston. I know Houston's going to want to keep him, but I think that the situation is too far gone for them to keep Deshaun Watson. I think he's made it clear he wants out and he's leaving. And I feel like the most logical place he's going to end up is New York. I think that we're going to see them trading probably that second pick as well as others for him. And the Jets will now have
second round pick or the second pick overall?
Sorry, second overall pick. That's what I meant, which that's a big deal. But Deshaun Watson has shown that he's an elite quarterback in this league. So there's only a few of those guys in the NFL. So anytime you have a chance to get one, I think you better snag one. So I think he's going to end up in the Jets franchise, and we'll see how that works for him. Probably not good, though, like Prison Mike said.
And to build on this, guys, I like what we're talking about with Deshaun Watson just wanting out. I think honestly, maybe in the back of his mind, he remembers last offseason when they traded away probably one of the best receivers in the NFL, like just spur of the moment. Mm-hmm. And maybe he's thinking he can get a little lucky there, and they just trade him. Who knows? The one that I'm more interested in is Matthew Stafford, though. He's a great quarterback. He's played on a subpar team his entire career. He's looking to build his career. He's looking to build a legacy. I'm thinking of 2 or 3 teams right now. If Drew Brees ends up retiring, I could see maybe New Orleans being interested. There's the Colts might be interested. There's a few organizations that could really use Matthew Stafford. I know he's not as a prolific athlete as Deshaun Watson, but he's got the experience that Deshaun Watson doesn't.
Well, here's what we know about Matthew Stafford. We know that the guy has an absolute cannon. We know that he's a competitor, but the fact of the matter is that he's never won, and he's not exactly a spring chicken out there on the football field at this point in his career. And I think that if you look at this quarterback class that we have coming up, there's some dudes that are legitimate, prospects in terms of building your future around them. And obviously Trevor Lawrence, probably the most hyped quarterback that we've seen since Andrew Luck coming into the league. We know he's going to go number 1 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. If the Jets can get they can pick up Deshaun Watson, that's a big deal. But I'll tell you what, if I'm a team like, I don't know, the 49ers or the Falcons or the Texans now, if they end up losing Deshaun Watson, I'm looking at a guy like Zach Wilson or a guy like Mac Jones or a guy like Justin Fields. And I'm thinking, all right, these are guys that have shown they're legitimate college quarterbacks with pro-ready skills. And I'm thinking, I would rather build a team around a young guy like that than bring in a guy like Matthew Stafford. Now, I think that Matthew Stafford's going to be a great quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, obviously, the Colts were able to make it work with Phillip Rivers. And it seems like they have the type of team that they're going to want to bring in a veteran. But if I'm a team that's down in the dumps, like the Houston Texans or even the Atlanta Falcons, it looks like they're going to want to move on from Matt Ryan here pretty soon. I'm looking to rebuild my future around a young guy that I know is going to be able to come in and develop.
Yeah. The comment that I kind of wanted to clarify, though, is, labeling Matthew Stafford as not a winner is fair because he hasn't. But how much has that been because he played for the Detroit Lions for his entire career? Like,
I think that's most of it.
I mean, if we can think of a crappy organization in the NFL, the Jets, the Lions. I mean, they're awful. I can't blame him for wanting out. And I'm frankly surprised. I'm excited to see what he can do with a team that is successful.
Can I bring up a point, though? Oh, go ahead, Brady.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree. I think, like Kellen said, Matthew Stafford is no spring chicken. He's getting up there, but I do think he still has maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 years left in the league playing at a good level. So I think if you're a team and you're looking for a quarterback, probably the young guy is the way to go. But if you don't have an opportunity to pick up a Zach Wilson or a Justin Fields or Mac Jones, then I don't think Matthew Stafford's a bad pick at all.
You know what, though? But here's my thing about Matthew Stafford is I think there's been points in his career, where he's looked great. But at the same time, he's had some pretty talented teams. I mean, I remember there was a couple years back when they used to have Megatron and they had guys like Kyle Van Noy and Ezekiel Ansah on the defensive line. They had a decent defense. They had Reggie Bush at one point. The Detroit Lions have had some talented teams. The biggest thing is they just were never able to put it together. And I don't know how much of that is based on the system. But I also kind of wonder some of his years where he's just put up monster numbers. I mean, and don't get me wrong, he's had some seasons that were absolutely incredible. I mean, he's gone over 5,000 yards in his career, been among the top receivers or the top quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of statistics. But let's remember, I mean, his biggest year where people were like, wow, this Matthew Stafford guy's incredible. He had 4,967 yards in the 2012 regular season, right? Which arguably people look at that as his best year. But remember, that's the season where Calvin Johnson had 1,964 receiving yards in that season. I mean, that's when he had Megatron. The thing is that season, Matthew Stafford only threw for 20 touchdowns and he threw 17 interceptions. I mean, a lot of people look at that as, arguably his best season. The way I look at it, I almost wonder if he was just benefiting of having probably the most talented wide receiver in NFL history on his team.
I can see that. I can see that. My intriguing thought is I would like to see Matthew Stafford go play for New Orleans. I think he's talented as what Drew Brees used to be. He's not Drew Brees, but his talents are similar. They can run Taysom and Jameis Winston in their gadget plays still. Like, bringing him in doesn't really change the system they're running right now. And I'd be intrigued to see how he does there.
Mike, were you going to say something?
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to really quickly mention that, I kind of agree with Jason on this one. I mean, he's not an elite top of the line quarterback that you're going to get right now, like a Patrick Mahomes or a Russell Wilson. But there are several teams out there that would benefit from having him. Like you said, if you look at the Saints, or maybe if you look at the Jets, if they don't get Deshaun Watson, they don't really have a good solid quarterback. And having Matthew Stafford with a little bit of experience, it'd just be a good pickup for a few teams for a few years. But I think we're going to move on from quarterbacks, and we're going to move on to some coaching. I believe there's some coaching changes going on in the NFL, with the biggest one being Urban Meyers is becoming head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Didn't he say he was never going to coach again?
Yes, he did.
said that when he left Florida.
Liar.
He said that when
That's true. He's a pathological liar.
But you can't blame the guy. I mean, if somebody offered you a few $1 million to coach, I'd probably eat my words and go back to coaching too.
Oh, I would break any vow I've ever made for just that was terrible.
Here's the thing, though, is like Urban Meyer said he retired from coaching in college because of health reasons. Like, I think he had some heart problems, and they were worried, like, man, this guy's going to coach himself to death. And because I guess one thing about Urban Meyer is when he loses games, and he didn't lose a lot of games in college, but when he would lose, it would take a serious mental toll and physical toll on his body. Like he wouldn't react well to it at all. And I just wonder, him reporting that and that being reported, him going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that won, did they win one game last season? They won 1-15.
One game.
A team that went 1-15 that really, I mean, even if they get Trevor Lawrence, it's not looking like they're going to turn it around immediately. He's probably going to lose a lot of games. Like, for his physical health, I'm actually worried about him going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And maybe living in sunny Florida in the Sunshine State will solve all. Well, he's already lived in Florida, but maybe.
I don't know. You think, though, in his college coaching at Florida and Ohio State, how much pressure was there to win in those organizations? Like,
an extreme
those
amount.
are two really proud organizations where if he loses, he's on the hot seat. Florida, if they lose more than 4 games in a season, they're looking at a new head coach possibly. Ohio State's the same way. So maybe Jacksonville won't be as much pressure to win immediately. I don't know.
Here's the thing, though, Jason. Here's what you have to take into account is when he was at Florida and Ohio State, you can recruit whoever you want. And Urban Meyer had a good enough program built up that he knew every year he was going to be bringing in some of the top talent. So the difference between college and NFL is in college, your team is as good as you make it, right? You can recruit kids, and let's face it, Ohio State and Florida, at least Florida when he was there, and Ohio State still to this day, they're never going to have bad teams. They're always going to be putting up competitive teams. And he never really had to worry about his job security. He didn't get fired from the University of Florida. He didn't get fired from Ohio State or the University of Utah. He resigned from those schools. In Florida and Ohio State, he said it was for health reasons and to be with his family more, because I don't think he could handle the mental toll that it was taken on him. And so I think now when you go into the NFL, the fact of the matter is if they don't win, if they don't show signs of improvement, then he's going to get canned. The NFL is a lot less forgiving than college football is in terms of, we're going to let the team progress and we're going to see what happens when, these underclassmen or upperclassmen. When you get to the NFL, you're expected to win. And that's why guys that, come in, they don't do well as head coaches like Matt Patricia or Freddie Kitchens, for example, these last couple of years, they got sacked because their teams didn't get any better. And then you
even can look at like Nick Saban. He coached in the NFL for a while and he just dropped down to college.
But then there's some guys like Sean McVay and Stefanski for the Browns that they come in and they make, these huge strides. I don't know if Urban Meyer, I hope he's able to do that, but he's got to prepare himself for the reality that, man, unless he's with the Dallas Cowboys, they're not going to give him another chance every year. Maybe he should have gotten hired by the Cowboys. They probably would have kept him around for a while. They don't care. They don't care how bad their team sucks. The Cowboys, all they care about is Jerry Jones is like, well, I like that guy. He's nice to my wife and me.
Yeah. I mean, but if we put the mental health issues aside or the physical health issues aside, he's a good coach. I'm intrigued to see what he can do with that program. And Kellen, I think you hit it right on the head, is how does he handle that pressure? And how is the pressure in college different from the pressure in the NFL? And is it something he can manage a little better? I don't know. I tend to be a glass half full kind of guy. He coached at Utah, which kind of makes me not like him as much.
I was just waiting for you to bring that up.
He was going to bring it up.
Okay. Hey, I'm rooting for the guy. I want to see him be successful in what he does. Honestly, I loved him as an analyst, and if it doesn't work out, I hope he can get that job back because I really liked his comments as an analyst.
Mm-hmm. I think his record speaks for himself. There's no reason to doubt him at this point, so we'll see what happens in Jacksonville.
I think it's a good hire, but at the same time, my only thing is, there's so many good coaches out there. I mean, for example, there were so many good coordinators. The fact that Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs didn't get hired, I mean, that absolutely blows my mind. But I think it's a good hire, and I think he's a good fit. And like I said, I hope he does well. I really like Urban Meyer, and I know that he's a player's coach. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Andy Reid in the sense that, his college players really had a good relationship with him. And you look at Andy Reid, I feel like Andy Reid has that same mentality where his players, they play for him. And I think Urban Meyer can have that same effect. But at the same time, I think he has to understand that the NFL is a lot more business-like. It's a lot more cutthroat than college is. So he's going to have to be prepared for a huge pressure change. And we're talking about a team, Jacksonville, that they've lost 15 straight games. I mean, he's got a long way to go. And statistically, they rank among in the bottom of the league. And so he's going to have to make some major changes. And the good thing is he's getting Trevor Lawrence, right? I mean, he's getting Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to have to change the entire culture of the team and the entire system. And I hope it pays off for him.
Yeah, for sure.
But we're going to shift gears. So usually this upcoming week, we would talk about a very special game that everybody just loves watching, and it's always so competitive. The NFL Pro Bowl, which, let's be honest, has got to be the biggest gimmick in professional sports in the NFL. I mean, there's some terrible things that have happened in the NFL. Deflategate, that was bad. Spygate. Man, I'm just naming stuff the Patriots have
all
done.
The things, that's because they're the ones that do it.
The Saints, Bountygate. But I think the Pro Bowl is more of a travesty than anything else. And this year they're not playing it. And can I be honest? I think it's absolutely awesome.
I don't think anyone cares in the slightest.
Honoring these players, but we don't have to watch the crappiest game of football that exists.
And let's talk about the reason it's crappy, though. I mean, what Pro Bowl player in their right mind is going to go to the Pro Bowl and go all out? Like, you're not going to want to get hurt in the Pro Bowl.
No.
Why?
They don't even tackle each other anymore either.
There's no pride in it. So what's the point? I think Madden, at least we're going to see some full contact, aggressive football.
Video game. I do think part of it, I agree with you guys. Like I've probably never watched a single Pro Bowl in my life because they're just that bad. And I think part of the reason why they're so bad is, like Jason was saying, no one wants to get hurt. And it's more for the players to enjoy themselves than like the fans, I feel like, is what they're almost making it. Like they have skills contests, and I believe it's in Hawaii. So like the players get to go to Hawaii, lounge around. It's after a season. So I feel like almost they're turning the Pro Bowl more into it's for the players than it is for the fans. And that's why all the fans hate it so much, because it's not competitive at all.
The sad thing, though, is that's what I'm most upset about, Mike, is the loss of the skills challenges that they were doing before the Pro Bowl. I've watched those every year, and I enjoy those more than anything else. To be honest, though, I'm the same with the All-Star game in the NBA. I'd rather watch the dunk contest and the three-point contest than the actual game.
Did you watch last year's All-Star game? This is getting a little off topic, but last year's All-Star game was as good a game of basketball as I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
like,
Brady makes a really good point. The way they switched up the format a little bit, and they made a couple of tweaks to where the players actually got to pick their teammates, right? Where they have the two top receiving vote players pick their team. Last year it was LeBron and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then they added up. It was the first one to 21, right at the end, or
yeah.
Or
it was honoring Kobe Bryant, so it was 24.
24 or something like that. And it was such a competitive game of basketball. It was so physical, and they were actually, it almost looked like they were running offenses at times. There's a lot of chemistry between the players. The thing with the NFL is that they're never going to be able to do that. They can't put too much physicality into it because you don't want some guy tearing his ACL and missing next season.
It's the off season. They'll be fine. They got 3 months to recover.
That is not enough time.
Could you imagine being your team's best player and getting hurt in the Pro Bowl? Just that plane ride back and trying to decide what the heck you're going to tell your owner about how you got hurt at a football game that means nothing. Like who won the Pro Bowl last year? Do you remember? Because I don't.
That was the day Kobe died, so I was too sad to pay attention.
But I don't think anybody, unless you were like an avid or you were on the team that won, you don't remember who won the Pro Bowl. It doesn't matter.
No,
I think honestly they might need to adopt what college football does and just start naming All-Americans or Pro Bowl.
Well, they already do the all. I think they named the All-Pro or the Pro Bowl teams, but the thing is there's so many things you could do. I mean, you could just cancel it every year. You could do a game of Madden, but then people are going to be like, well, that's not real. You could do flag football and then a lineman challenge essentially, but no one's going to really want to watch a flag football game.
Just do the skills. Just do the skill programs and cut the game.
Still give them an opportunity to go to Hawaii.
And like Jason said, maybe name some I don't know what they call it, but All-Americans, name who would be on the team or something and do a skills challenge and call it good.
You wouldn't even need to change the name. You could still call them Pro Bowlers. You just don't hold the game. And I love, honestly, have you guys ever watched combines? There's certain events in the combines that are worth watching. There's some that I don't care for. But if you could almost make a pro combine day of these guys that have made that selection just so they can show us what they can do, I think that'd be entertaining enough.
A skills challenge for every single position group, right? You have your receivers do a challenge, your running backs do a challenge, and then do maybe some type of incentive. We'll donate a certain amount of money towards your favorite charity, or whoever wins gets a free car.
Or just the trophy in general. I mean, you look at the dunk contest. Do they win money if they win the dunk contest? No, they get a trophy.
That's true. Speaking of the dunk contest, we're actually going to have to transition to our next part. We're going to go into the NBA. And Brady, how about you introduce our next topic because we know it's close to your heart.
All right. Our next topic, we're going into the NBA. We're going to the team that is most local to us with the Utah Jazz. And right now, they sit with the #1 record in the NBA. At least they did last time I checked. I'm pretty sure it still holds.
10 wins in a row.
They're on a 10-win streak. They're actually playing in 20 minutes or so. But are they as good as their record says they are? Their record says they're the #1 team in the NBA. It says they've won 10 in a row. It says they're the hottest team in the NBA. Are we believing all the hype that the Jazz have behind them right now? Mike, you start us off.
Yeah, I want to start.
All right.
Since I always seem to just get you guys fired up, and since I'm the only one who's not a diehard Jazz fan,
he's gonna hate.
No, I'm not gonna hate on them. The Jazz are as good as their record says right now. They are playing phenomenal. They have a very good team. We've seen amazing play from Mike Conley, from Jordan Clarkson, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. You even got the O'Neal, who's been playing really well, Royce O'Neal. So the Jazz are as good as their records say. I think that right now they're probably playing one of the best teams in the NBA. But what it all comes down to is they're playing good right now. I do not think that it's going to transition to the playoffs. I think other teams are just gonna lock down more, and the Jazz are gonna have they'll have a good season. They'll maybe win one. Maybe they'll make it to the Western Conference Finals, but they're not winning at all.
Man, Mike, I kind of am there with you because that's been their track record the past few seasons. But one thing we need to remember about the playoffs last year is one of their key pieces on offense was hurt for the playoffs. being Bogdanovich. If he's there, I kind of give the Jazz the edge over the Nuggets there, which makes things a little more interesting. I agree. I mean, 10 wins in a row is nothing to bat an eye at, guys. That's impressive. They've beaten some good teams to get there. But there's a couple teams that they're above right now that are getting hot. I mean, the Rockets are playing better without James Harden. Who could have imagined that? I think we were saying something about that in August. But, these kind of things like the Rockets, I think they have the potential to be a better team than the Jazz. I love the Jazz, don't get me wrong. But the way they're playing, I mean, they're on a 4-game win streak right now. The Lakers are obviously we would be insane to say that the Jazz are better than the Lakers right now. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
The Clippers, I'm not going to say they're better than the Clippers either. Would I like to see a playoff series with the Jazz and one of those two teams? Heck yeah, I'd love to see that. Would I put my money on the Jazz? Probably not.
Okay, here, let me just say, I think that the Utah Jazz deserve all the hype, and I think they are as good as people are giving them credit for. And I'm not saying they're better than the Lakers. I'm just saying this is a Utah Jazz team that is in it to compete for a championship. And we're talking about a team that right now that is ranked 3rd defensively in points allowed. They're 1st in rebounds per game. A lot of it has to do with Rudy Gobert, who, by the way, Mike, is not overrated and is one of the best centers in the league. And he is playing like an absolute man right now. And then they're actually tied for 10th in points per game. When you're the 3rd best defensive team in the league and the 10th best offensive team, you're going to be right up there for the most competitive teams in the league. Right now, I mean, you look at what they have statistically, everyone knows that Donovan Mitchell can score the ball, and everybody knows that Rudy Gobert plays great defense. But the fact of the matter is right now, the Jazz have they have 6 players that are scoring in double figures a game. That's incredible depth that we're seeing. And then you look at what they do on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, guys like Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, who's a great defensive player on the paint. I mean, obviously, they might not be the most athletic team in the NBA, but I'll tell you what, they may be the grittiest team. They may be the toughest team. And right now, they are the hottest team in the NFL, I think, or the NBA. I think they deserve all the hype. But hey, let's get an NFL team in Salt Lake. Let's do that.
Yeah, that'd be nice. The one thing I don't think we're mentioning off the bat, and I think it's probably the most underappreciated aspect of the Utah Jazz, is Quinn Snyder is one heck of a coach. If they continue on the path they're going on right now, Quinn Snyder doesn't win Coach of the Year, the system is rigged at that point. That guy has made a huge impact on that organization, and really, I mean, as much as I love Jerry Sloan, Quinn Snyder is going to be the guy that Utah remembers if he keeps going the way he's going right now.
That's a bold statement right there, but I agree with you. I think Quinn Snyder is amazing. And with this Jazz team, I think the thing that impresses me most is obviously they're one of the best, if not the best, 3-point shooting team in the NBA, but they can also put crazy pressure on the basket as far as scoring in the paint with guys like Jordan Clarkson, Donovan Mitchell. Even Mike Conley has that little floater that he's made his whole career off of. So I think I think this every year because I'm a Jazz fan, but I think this team is built different than teams we've seen in the past. I think they're loads ahead of the team they were last year, especially with Bogdanovich back. That spreads the floor a lot. So he's back, and I honestly think they're not better than the Lakers. I won't say that, but I think they are better than Clippers. Every time the Jazz match up against the Clippers, they wreck them. So I think they're better than the Clippers. I don't think they're better than the Lakers, and I think they're better than any team in the East. And they're going to beat the snot out of your Celtics in about 2 weeks, Prison Mike.
and
I just want to bring something up real quick. Do you really believe that Jason Tatum is the best player in the NBA?
No, not in the NBA. He's my favorite, but he's not the best player.
Okay, but who do you rank him up? Do you really think he's better than Luka Doncic?
Yes.
Oh.
Everyone's going to hate on it, but yeah, I am not a Luka fan.
Oh, man.
So this was brought up to
Shots
me.
fired, Luka, if you hear this.
that Prison Mike believes that Luka Doncic is an inferior player to Jason Tatum. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick.
It's almost like Mike's trying to pull a Shaq on.
Look at the Mavericks. Look at the Mavericks. Luka can play out of his mind, but look at where they're at. Let me check really fast. I'm pretty sure they're not even in the top 8 in the West right now.
They aren't. You're right.
I'm not even sure that Jason Tatum's the best player on his team, watching the way Jaylen Brown's been playing this year.
Jaylen Brown's been playing really good. I definitely say those two are like one of the best duos in the NBA right now. Like maybe they're definitely still beneath like Anthony Davis and LeBron, but they're one of the best duos in the NBA right now.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, though, Mike. Luka Doncic, he's going to figure it out. They're going to start winning games, and you're going to have to eat those words later on.
Probably will. Well, that's all right.
Mike,
he's in the West. He's going to beat the Jazz, not the Celtics, when it comes down to
it.
Ouch.
Okay, but I do think we need to bring up something because Jason did bring it up. Had to do with Donovan Mitchell. Jason, why don't you fill us in?
So Shaq, the thing about this whole situation is I don't think Shaq was trying to make Donovan Mitchell feel bad. I think he was, if you listen to the interview, he was trying to get a reaction out of Donovan Mitchell when he's like, I don't think you are an elite player yet. Type words. I can't quote it exactly. And he's like, what do you have to say about that? And Donovan Mitchell responded, and Shaq actually in the interview is like, that's what I was looking for type thing. But you know how reactionary people are in the internet is anymore. It just blew up and everybody's mad at Shaq now. Did you guys, I wish I had the picture. Somebody photoshopped a picture of Donovan Mitchell dunking on Shaq. It is gold. I wish I had that to show you guys, but I don't know. Do you guys feel like Shaq was trying to slight Mitchell, or do you think he had other intentions there?
I saw it as a slight. I get that he says he was trying to motivate him, but how much more motivation does he think Donovan Mitchell needs at this point? Does he think that he's not motivated to the next level? I think Donovan Mitchell said it best in the interview after. At first, he just responded by saying, but then he said, Shaq, people have been telling me that this my whole career, which I think is so true. His whole career as he's been in the NBA, I've heard it. People have been saying that he doesn't have what it takes to get to the next level. And maybe I think he does. He's definitely not there yet. He's got a ways to improve to be on the same level as some of those elites. But I think he's plenty motivated, and I don't know why Shaq felt he had to make that statement.
All I have to say is if Donovan Mitchell finds a way to turn it on,
see that image
level, I'm liking what Shaq did, just for the fact that maybe it wasn't his intention, but if he makes Donovan Mitchell better, I'm not going to complain about it.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys. Like, I guess I'll be agreeing a little bit more with Jason. I mean, I don't feel like all that picture's awesome.
There it is.
I love Photoshop. Isn't it the best?
Yeah.
Photoshop is the greatest thing.
But I think Shaq wasn't wanting it to come out quite like that. Why he said that on live TV in an interview, like I was super surprised that he said it like he did. But I think more than anything, he just wants to see Donovan Mitchell hit that next level, and I think he will. And one thing I was really surprised by, I must say, is Donovan Mitchell's reaction. Was Donovan Mitchell's reaction. He didn't, I was expecting kind of like a comeback, like, yeah, I'm going to get better, like, this is what I'm doing. And instead he just said, all right, and, I don't know, acted kind of, hurt by it, which I was a little surprised by.
I almost think his initial reaction, he was kind of like, did you really just say that to me? Like, what the heck? I don't know.
I think Shaq has a personal vendetta against the Jazz. So I'm not going to lie. Because this last season was it last season? Rudy Gobert signed a $200 million contract. Was it a $200 million contract with the Jazz,
Something like
making him the highest paid center in NBA history? I mean, it was an absolute ludicrous deal. And I think Shaq, I don't think he likes the Jazz because there were some pretty good Jazz teams that he had to play against. And let's be honest, I don't think the Jazz are the Lakers' biggest rival, but there's definitely a rivalry there. And I think
what? In that era, they were, though.
Exactly. Well, and here's the thing is I think that he went after Rudy Gobert and made it really personal with Rudy Gobert. And he posted a picture of himself dunking on Rudy Gobert,
which was
said that if they went, that if they went up against each other, he would absolutely dominate them. And he probably would. Shaquille O'Neal is one of the greatest centers, if not the greatest center of all time. But I just think that he's got a personal vendetta against the Jazz. I mean, we've seen it now with Rudy Gobert. We've seen it with Donovan Mitchell. And I don't want to look into it too much, but I think Shaq's just kind of a hater a little bit.
You know what would hurt my feelings, though, is if he went over after Joe Ingles.
Hey, Joe Ingles put up 21 points filling in for Donovan tonight.
Oh, Joe. It's good to see him finally in the spot where he belongs, which is on the bench most of the time.
Hey, he's the first man off the bench for him.
Look,
I won't hear Joe Ingles slander on here.
Our personal vendetta against Joe Ingles is an actual personal vendetta. Like it is personal. All right,
Why?
So we're going to share this story, and I'm not going to mention this person's name because I don't have this person's permission. But when I was in high school, I was part of a group called Syncopation. And Syncopation was a show choir group, and we had the opportunity to sing at a couple Jazz games, the national anthem. And our buddy, he was a huge Utah Jazz fan, and Joe Ingles was one of his favorite players. I mean, he had just a real admiration for Joe Ingles. And when you're down there practicing, you're right there next to these NBA players. They're walking through the tunnels, and you're high-fiving them, and it's an awesome experience. And as we were walking onto the court, we were walking by Joe Ingles shooting a three, and I was right by my friend. And Jason was actually at the game, and Jason said that he was able to view what kind of transpired, but I was right there. And as Joe Ingles was shooting a corner three, I think our buddy, thought it'd be cool to have like a little fun moment with Joe Ingles and make him laugh. And he's like, "Miss!" That's what he yelled. He yelled, "Miss!" And Joe Ingles drilled this sucker. Like, I mean, it's an NBA player, wide open warm-up three. And he turns around, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a lighthearted moment. And he looks at my buddy and just says, "Explicit you." It was an expletive that he used in a very mean way.
That makes me like it more, though. That's awesome. Joe Ingles is a savage.
You know this person Kellen's talking about. He's like the nicest kid.
The nicest human being you'll ever meet. And to see the look of sadness, to see the look of shock and sadness on our dear friend's face just made me not like Joe Ingles. Like, I can't cheer for the guy.
He's a savage.
So mean, man. No, he has ice water in his veins. I mean, Joe Ingles is a savage. So that is why we have a hard time cheering for him. I mean, it was pretty funny. I mean, I laughed because I'm a terrible person, but it was a pretty funny story. Anyways, so if this ever gets back to Joe Ingles, you owe our buddy an apology. You really do. I mean, what you did was wrong. And
maybe
we'll cheer for you on the court, but man, come on.
Come on, man.
Anyways,
Joe.
I'm glad we were able to throw Joe Ingles under the bus. I think Brady might like him even more now.
Oh, yeah. When I heard that story, I was like, I was a Joe Ingles fan, but now I'm a Joe Ingles super fan. What a savage.
We're actually going to jump into we're actually going to leave the NBA. We're going to stay in the game of basketball, and we're going to go on to a college subject. Mike, why don't you bring up our next subject for us?
Perfect. So we've got a lot of teams playing pretty good in college basketball right now. They're hooping up. But the question of the day is the number one team in the nation, Gonzaga, really the best team? And are they better than other teams that Gonzaga's had before? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yes and yes.
I'm going to say yes by a significant margin on the first question. And yes, just the way they play and the chemistry and the just it's a great team. I wouldn't even go to say this is the most talented team they've had in past years. They're just the best team. It's nuts. Watching these guys play is so much fun right now.
I would make the argument, and maybe you'll agree with me, maybe not. Look, the thing I love about college basketball is they don't have Power Fives. That really doesn't exist. It's not a thing. I mean, yeah, there's conferences that are really good and that play at a high level. But the fact of the matter is when it comes tournament times, it doesn't matter what conference you're in. You lose, you're out. And there's a lot of great.
Back up a little bit, because if you're in one of those P5 conferences, you have a better shot of getting into the tournament, though.
That is true. But here's the point I'm trying to make, and I'm trying to get around to it. As good as some of these programs are, I mean, we're talking our big programs like Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky. Gonzaga is the best college basketball program in the country right now. I mean, I would debate it with anybody. Gonzaga is the best college basketball program in the country, and they have the best coach in college basketball currently. Now, I'm not saying of all time. I'm just saying Mark Few does as good of a job as anyone else. I mean, we're talking about a guy, the way he's able to recruit and the guys he's bringing guys that are unheralded prospects into his program, and he's turning them into just absolute monsters and stars. And a lot of these guys are going to the NBA, and they're finding relative success. So I'm telling you right now, this Gonzaga program is the best in the country. They're, I think, the best team in college basketball this year. You look at the experience they have. You look at the size and the physicality. That's kind of one of Gonzaga's cornerstones. I would put them up against anybody right now. And so, yeah, I mean, I am just so impressed with what Coach Few's been able to do. And the fact, not only are they, talented, but he gets these guys to stay around for 2, 3, 4 years. And that's why I'm so impressed with what Coach Few has done and what Gonzaga's program has done. And I'm a BYU fan along with Jason. And I'll tell you what, as a BYU fan, you think that I would, want to cheer against Gonzaga, but it is very easy for me to root for Gonzaga.
Yeah. As long as it's not St. Mary's, I don't really care. But that's the thing, though, is not only that, but Mark Few is just a great guy in general. I mean, he doesn't say controversial things. I don't think he could probably get on national media and say whatever opinions he wanted to say, and he just doesn't.
Just a quick note on Mark Few. I don't remember the exact statistic, but I saw it recently. I believe it's over 100 games. Like all coaches that have coached over 100 games, he is the most winning. He has the most winning percentage of any coach currently in Division I basketball. He's winning over 85% of his games. He is an amazing coach. I will just say that. And to answer my own question, I had to laugh a little bit. I agree with you guys. They're obviously the best team in college right now. But I found an article that was done on ESPN in December where they interviewed players from different teams of Gonzaga. So they interviewed some of their great players that they've had on teams before and asked them who's a better team. And I just have to laugh because every single one of these players said that they had a better team than the one that they have right now. They would list all kinds of reasons, we had this guy and this guy, we were way better than they were. And so it made me laugh a little bit looking at this because Gonzaga really has some good teams. But as of right now, I do believe this might be the most impressive one they've put together yet.
Well, and the thing is we've seen Gonzaga teams that have made it to the national championship and the Final Four and the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16. I mean, yeah, they've had a lot of really good teams. I guess the team that's going to be the best is the team that wins the national championship. And honestly, how cool would it be to see a school that isn't a Power 5 school, that isn't a power program, traditionally win a national championship? And I think if there's a team that can do it, it's going to be Gonzaga, because they've beaten some great teams, and they've not only that, but they've been so dominant in conference play. I mean, it seems like everybody they play, they're just absolutely dominating. And the fact of the matter is, they're second in points per game, and they're also third in assists per game. This is a team that just has incredible chemistry. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see what this Gonzaga team's able to do.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, our time is winding down. But before we jump into our C-squared moment of the day, we just want to remind you guys to go to our YouTube channel. It's Sports Fans is what it's called. The link should be through. You can find it through our Facebook page as well. We encourage you guys to like and subscribe and share if possible. That way, we're actually going to be able to progress this channel and do things that we want to do that would be visually pleasing to you guys as well. But yeah, we're going to jump into our C-squared moment of the day. For those who haven't watched the show before, this is just a moment where we reflect on something great that's happened to us today, something great that's happened. It can be related to sports. It can be related to personal life. I know Jason really likes to talk about food that he eats. So we're going to jump into that section next. And today we're going to start off with Jason for our C-squared moment of the day.
So okay, guys, my C-squared moment of the day is actually kind of, it's, I don't know why this made me feel so good, but it did. Okay, so I took Bronco bowling today at Skyview Lanes in Afton, and I tweaked my ankle like a week ago, so like it's not feeling great. And I go to throw the first ball, and I do the slide thing, and pain. It felt terrible, and I look up, and it's a gutter ball. And like, there's only one other person in the bowling alley other than Bronco at that time, and I was just like so ashamed. So I walked back to the thing, and I was just like, what do I tell my son right now? And the next ball I threw was a gutter ball on the other side. And at this point, I'm like, oh, crap, I hate this sport. But you know what? I had fun with my son. And honestly, if you've never played, like, it's hard for me not to be competitive, but I was not competitive in that game of bowling. Probably the best funnest game of bowling I've ever played.
We're glad that your mediocrity brought you joy, Jason.
It did. It did today.
But just so you know, Jason literally will roll his ankle if the breeze is strong enough. I mean, he has the worst ankles of all time. No human has ever had worse ankles than Jason.
Yeah, if I look at a crack in the ground the wrong way, I feel pain.
Yeah. We're glad that you had that moment with your son. Bronco is Jason's son, by the way. Bronco is a stud. Shout out to that guy. We're going to jump it over to Prison Mike for his C-squared moment of the day.
All right. My C-squared moment of the day it's actually pretty boring, but I guess a lot of people, I don't know if you know this, but 3 of us here are college students right now. We're all trying to get a degree, grinding, doing homework, and today I got a whole lot of homework done. It's like the first time I've had to do it this semester, and it was nice to get all that homework done. I felt pretty good about myself after I finished all that work.
Nice. I'm proud of you, Mike.
Nice job, Mike. I'm going to go next, and we'll finish it with Brady. So my C-squared moment of the day is that today I was just chilling, doing homework, living my life. And usually my wife gets off work at like 3:30. She got off at like noon. And it was like before noon. she got off early, and I got to go to Applebee's. So I hated on Jason for talking about food, but I got to take my wife out to lunch today, and it's awesome because I don't usually get lunchtime with my wife. I usually just get dinner. So I'm saying this because it's really my moment of the day, and also Michelle can hear me, so her hearing this is going to get me some brownie points. So
Nice.
Brady,
Very nice.
let's hear it. And I just want to talk about his caption. It's ladies, he is single. Hit him up. Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. He's got them all.
And that mustache does get better. It gets better.
It'll grow. My C-squared moment of the day is the fact that my room is actually clean and organized now. You guys should have, Prison Mike saw it a little bit, but you guys should have seen my room like 2 days ago. It literally looked like a tornado hit it and just threw things all over. Like there were things I didn't even recognize that I was like, I don't know what this is, just picking up. And I spent like 2.5 hours one day just cleaning the whole thing and going hard. And now you can't really see it, but look at that.
That looks
clean,
good, Brady.
Organized. It'll probably last more like 2 more days. So I'm going to enjoy those 2 days of organization.
I can attest to that. Yesterday, he just like pulled out some random Celtic shirt and was like, I have no idea where I got a Celtic shirt from. It's like, I should burn it. And I told him not to.
You should burn it and video it.
Max, I'll keep that if you don't want it.
I'll give it to you.
So Brady's room was pretty bad, but it's really clean now.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, friends, it has been a pleasure to have this show. We are a little bit over time. We want to just give a shout out to anybody that was watching today. We want to give you a big thank you. We will be back on Monday. If you guys ever have any comments or if you have anything you want us to do, comment it on our YouTube or our Facebook. Again, remember to like and subscribe at Sportsfans on YouTube. Anyways, we're going to be signing off. So signing off, this is the Crimson Comet.
Lazy Snake.
Prison Mike.
And the Bearded Wonder.
And remember,
K.
G.
Brother.
Okay, brother.